Each season I perform music that I love, and you kind of love certain composers and pieces more. Each year or each season. For a good number of years I've wanted to understand better how somebody could write as a young person in their 20s really, really deep spiritual music and write deep spiritual music as an older person, 59 years old. So you would not know that so much time has gone by in the case of Brahms. And I stumbled upon this book, and one of the chapters is kind of a discussion, inspiration. The book is Talks with Great Composers by Arthur Abel. And this one chapter is dealing with Brahms. It's a kind of record taken down by a stenographer of a conversation that Brahms and Joachim had together. Joachim, of course, was Brahms's great friend and a great violinist. So it must have been a long conversation because it's a long chapter. But Joachim sits Brahms down and kind of convinces him that he should explain how he composes. I mean, how does he be inspired? How does all this beautiful, gorgeous music come out? And at first Brahms is very reluctant, and then Joachim says, but wouldn't you want to know how Beethoven composed? And that sort of is the hook. And Brahms says, yes, I would want to share that with future generations. The one caveat is you can't publish this until 50 years after I die. So he proceeds to explain his relationship with what he calls a kind of a power that he can really feel. It's a kind of not exactly a trance state. It's not exactly a dream state, but it's kind of a mix of that. And he gets, I guess we could say today, he gets into this zone. And when he's in that zone, he can compose. That's when he feels inspired. And when he comes out of that place, he can't continue. In fact, he has to do a certain number, get a certain distance in a piece before he can re-enter that place. Otherwise, he just has to throw it out and start with some other idea. It's clear that he wanted to find out how he attached himself to this higher power himself. So he did a lot of research into studying the Bible and to studying how does a man become bigger than himself? Whether some people call it God, some people call it the Force, Factor X, different names for it. But he was certainly aware of that altered state, and he doesn't admit to taking any drugs. So it's a wonderful, wonderful, difficult chapter to read. I would suggest everybody read it, but it really explains that there is a force out there that's bigger than us. I think Brahms is not the first person that has talked about this, but it's such an interesting document. And it really explains how these Opus 10 ballades, written when he was around 20, and how Opus 17, which he called 3 lullabies for my sorrows, which were really at the end of his life. How, they're next door neighbors by the same person, and they don't have a time stamp on them, except that the later pieces are much simpler in a way. I mean, it's like the distillation of many, many emotions. So I thought it would be very interesting to play early Brahms and late Brahms from this spiritual perspective. And these pieces are extremely spiritual. They don't have a lot of other elements that other Brahms has, like a lot of virtuosity. They're fairly direct in this emotional sense. Putting things around that, I thought it would be nice to have some Soler and Scarlatti sonatas, early sonatas for keyboard. They're a little bit out of style now to do both composers together. I love playing them because I love to explore ornamentation and making pieces your own. I mean, that sort of would be an extension of Brahms's idea of really finding your own voice and doing something unique that lifts us to another level. So that's my take on doing improvisation, ornamentation, embellishment. The two rags that I end with, one by William Bolcom and one by William Albright, both Williams. They're examples of really current ragtime. They're very inspirational. There's a lot of room, again, for your personal take and embellishment and ornamentation. And I thought it might be really a nice idea to end the DVD with some kind of upbeat, fun music. So that's the story of this particular DVD. Just because the repertory is not big hall repertory, it's all very intimate repertory. I mean, early keyboard sonatas were for clavichord or harpsichord. So you're talking about a very, very small salon style, what used to be house concerts. The Brahms pieces do not require a big hall, although they can be played in that kind of a venue. And the rags can be played anywhere, in your living room, on the street, uprights, grands. I mean, it's just very casual music. So this program lent itself to a more intimate environment where you could still have a lot of nuance and a lot of color, but you didn't need the space and the reverberation of, you know, a 500 or 3,000 seat concert hall. This piano is a 1891 Steinway. Originally, the sounding board was put in Germany. It was shipped over to the United States, and I bought it used. It was completely rebuilt by A&C Piano Craft. Ted Kostakis, who used to work for Steinway, now we're going back many years, probably 60, 70 years, moved away, started his own business, and the business was called AC Piano Craft, and he was known for his beautiful workmanship. Everybody that sees this piano says, well, the reason the piano sings the way it does is because the board. The board has a beautiful crest, and that's the board that Ted put in. It's extraordinary. And he also puts in an extraordinary action. He's retired, he's still living. And, I wasn't really looking for a Steinway. I wasn't looking for a new piano, but one day I get a call from him, and he said, I have this piano, and I think you need to get on a plane and come and try it. I said, really? And so there I went, and he said, Dad, he named it Ferrari. And he said, this is the piano for you. He was right. I mean, it's just a gorgeous instrument. So that's how I got Ferrari, and I record on Ferrari. And I have another beautiful, Steinway too, but it's not on the same level. This has beautiful colors, and I think it also has something to do with the original wood that was used in 1891. I mean, it's a lot of things what makes a special piano, but it has a palette of color that's very special.